Words cannot describe the pain and sadness and surprise that I feel with the recent loss of MJW. He was the big brother. He was a beacon. He was one of the most multifaceted, talented men. So gentle. And my heart and soul and hugs and kisses go out to his daughter and his wife and his mother. He gave the best advice. He gave the best hugs. And his smile will always be a huge, bright, and white smile in my head forever. I love you, and I know you're watching over all of us now. Bye, Malcolm.
All right, listen up for a second. Stop what you're doing because this story is about to take a serious turn. Pamela Warner, yes, Malcolm Jamal Warner's mother, thus said something that gave people goosebumps. She didn't hold back. She said what many people were scared to even suggest out loud. And now, it doesn't just seem like a tragic moment. It feels like something way deeper. Maybe even darker. In case you don't remember, Pamela ain't just some ordinary mom. She was the woman behind Malcolm's success. She managed his career, guided him through Hollywood, and helped him grow when he became a household name playing Theo on The Cosby Show.
The beach where this shocking incident unfolded over the weekend, and you can see behind me right now there is a red flag up telling beachgoers to not go in the water. And of course those flags can change with conditions throughout the day, but there's a sign when we pulled up to the beach here that warns people about the risk of the current, about the risk of going in these waters. And of course we now know that for Malcolm Jamal Warner, going in these waters over the weekend proved to be deadly. A source close to the actor tells us that he was on vacation with his wife and his young daughter when a day at the beach went terribly wrong.
So, when she speaks, it's not just emotional, it's informed. Pamela didn't speak in confusing words or leave things open to interpretation. She said flat out that what happened to her son didn't sit well with her. She said it never felt right, even from the beginning. And it's not just about how she felt emotionally, it's about the events that unfolded, the questions nobody seems to be asking, and how quickly everything was written off like it didn't deserve a second glance. Here's what people know so far. Malcolm had dinner with some longtime industry contacts. It was a small gathering, nothing fancy, not some wild party.
To remind you, as I remind myself, that no matter what's going on, there's always a reason to smile. Peace and love, and I'll be back soon.
Everyone who saw him that night said the same thing. He looked good, acted normal, and seemed in great spirits. Then just a few hours later, he was found unconscious in a swimming pool at a large, private estate in Hollywood. And here's the strange part, none of his close friends were there. He was alone. The police called it an accidental drowning not long after they arrived. But here's what doesn't make sense.
I was kind of going through a period that I was having a struggle with hopelessness.
Oh, okay.
And it was just really, the world is just in a dark place.
Yeah.
Malcolm didn't even like swimming late at night. On top of that, toxicology reports showed no alcohol, no drugs, no medications, not even over-the-counter stuff. His body was clean. Malcolm was someone who exercised regularly. He ate healthy, focused on fitness, and avoided harmful habits. So the big question is, how does a man like that end up lifeless in a pool with no clear reason? Why hasn't the homeowner said anything? Why aren't there any security camera recordings? Why is there no timeline showing how Malcolm got from dinner to that estate? Accidents can happen, sure, but this one, it doesn't match the kind of person he was.
Think about people in my life who have gone on and transitioned. And I think about the lives that they've led, like they were really good people. So, and when we talk about, why are the good people taken away from us? And I go, maybe they're being rewarded or something.
He didn't take risks like that. You don't just find yourself at someone's mansion in the middle of the night unless you trust that space, unless you know the people involved. And yet, the owners of that property have stayed completely silent. Nothing, no statements, no interviews, not even a social media post. And that's when Pamela stepped in and said what everyone was thinking, but too afraid to say. A few days after the world found out Malcolm was gone, his mother spoke publicly, and she didn't give that typical response like, "We need privacy during this hard time." No, she came with a quiet strength. She sounded like a mom who knew her son better than anyone ever could. Pamela said, and I'm quoting her directly, "My son wasn't depressed. He wasn't on anything. And this wasn't just some accident." Those words shook people. She didn't hesitate or suggest it was just a mistake. She said it clearly. This was no accident. If anyone would have noticed something strange going on with Malcolm, it would have been her. He was close to her his whole life. She wasn't guessing. She sounded like someone who knew more than she could legally share. And when the initial autopsy came back, things only got more confusing. There was nothing in his body, no alcohol, no drugs. His heart was healthy. No signs of a stroke, but there were some bruises. And not just any bruises, ones on the back of his head and across his shoulders. Now think about that. If he slipped and hit his head, you'd expect the injury to be somewhere else, right? But the marks on him didn't match a simple fall. Still, the coroner labeled it as a possible accident. Really, he falls into a pool and ends up with marks like that on his back. That's not how these things usually happen. It just didn't add up. That's when his cousin, James Warner, got involved. He went live on Instagram and didn't hold back. He was furious. He said straight up that something was being hidden. He told everyone that Malcolm was careful with where he went and who he spent time with. He didn't just stay over at people's houses for no reason. He respected his space and protected his peace. James even brought up the topic nobody wants to discuss: race. He said if Malcolm were white, this story would have been handled differently. There would be more attention, more coverage, more people demanding answers. But because he was a black man, the case was being swept away quietly. And if we're being honest, James had a point. When white celebrities die under strange circumstances, there are investigations, headlines, documentaries, memorial specials. When it's someone like Malcolm, it's often labeled a simple accident and forgotten quickly. James hinted that Malcolm had recently cut off ties with certain people in the industry. He didn't name them, but he said clearly there are individuals walking around with information they haven't shared. And that silence speaks volumes. Pamela wasn't finished either. She did something that made people realize she was serious. She hired a private investigator. Not just anyone, either. She brought in someone known in the entertainment world for solving mysterious celebrity deaths. This investigator doesn't chase rumors. They're hired when something doesn't feel right and families need real answers. Pamela had spent years guiding her son through the rough parts of fame. She helped him grow into a man who stood for something. So, if she believed something was wrong, it wasn't a theory, it was her instinct, built on years of knowing her son inside and out. As soon as Pamela began pushing for answers, people started acting strange. Friends stopped answering her calls. Some gave short, nervous replies. Others went completely quiet, but she kept going. She said she couldn't lay her son to rest without knowing what really happened, and then more strange details came to light. Just days before Malcolm died, he had signed a deal for a new streaming show. But this wasn't just another acting role. It was a project about redemption, about second chances. And more importantly, it was about pulling back the curtain on the entertainment industry. Malcolm was working with a group of writers, some who had left Hollywood, some who had been silenced before. He wanted to take real events and turn them into stories for the screen. It was bold, it was risky, and he was excited. Friends said he hadn't been this enthusiastic in years. He even had a weekend getaway planned for Pamela's birthday. Everything was scheduled, flights booked, spa appointments arranged, dinner spots reserved. Does that sound like a man with no hope? Not at all. It sounded like a man with a plan and something big ahead of him. Now let's talk about that final night. Remember, those security cameras at the mansion where he was found. Well, they glitched. Or so we're told. There's no footage from the key hours when everything happened, but there's more. Malcolm sent a message to a friend right before he passed. It said, "Not sure why I'm here. Something doesn't feel right." That one line is haunting. He didn't say he was scared or in trouble, but he clearly felt something was off. It sounded like he had doubts about where he was or who he was with, and there was a voicemail, too, left a few days earlier. It leaked online, and it's chilling. Malcolm said, "If anything happens to me, just know I was working on something bigger than us all." What did that mean? Was he trying to expose something? Was this connected to his new project? Was someone trying to keep him quiet? And why isn't anyone looking into this message seriously? The police haven't offered any new updates. The homeowner still hasn't said a single word. No interviews, not even a basic comment. And the Hollywood community? You'd expect a major response, right? But it's been mostly silence. A few former castmates did speak up. Tempest Bledsoe, who played Vanessa on The Cosby Show, got emotional. She said they grew up together and were like family. Raven Simone mentioned they hadn't spoken in a while. Her voice cracked a bit, like there was more she wanted to say, but didn't. Lisa Bonet gave a vague statement about how much pressure Malcolm had to carry. She talked about how everyone expected him to be the good guy on set, but beyond that, not much else. Big names like Denzel Washington, Angela Bassett, and others who came up in the same era. They dropped short messages online. Nothing deep, no real tribute. It was strange, cold, even. And for someone as respected as Malcolm, it didn't sit right with fans. So let's ask the real question. Why are so many people avoiding this conversation? Are they scared? Or do they know something? They can't say. Pamela Warner hasn't stopped asking for answers. And she's not going to stop anytime soon. This isn't about rumors. It's about a mother trying to uncover the truth about her son. So now it's on us. What do you think really happened? Was it just an accident? Or is Pamela right to keep asking questions? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're still thinking about Malcolm, hit that like and subscribe because this story is far from over.